All right, it's a playoff special edition here on Crowlax TV as we preview the North Division final between the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels and Edmonton Warriors. The best of three begins Friday night at Bill Hunter Arena. And joining me on the line here is Warriors head coach Vay Dieppe. Vay, thanks for being with us.
Hey, always a pleasure, and want to take this opportunity again to thank you, Cody, and the other play-by-play guys of your hard work throughout with Crowlax TV and promoting our league, and especially the North Division as well. So, from the Warrior organization and our players and our manager group, thank you again.
I appreciate it, Vay. I think it's been a long time coming for lacrosse in general, not just junior B at the junior B level, but all around. I think overall everybody's been really appreciative of what's going on and some of the media coverage and just some attention being brought to the players and the teams. I think it's been a positive, very positive addition to the sport. So thank you for those words. So let's get right into it. Before we get into the hype of the series that starts on Friday night, I wanted to ask you about your season as a whole. How would you sort of evaluate things, and maybe give me a bit of a report card on how you'd grade your team out?
Overall, we're very pleased with the season so far. We had some minor bumps here and there with some new additions to the team as well. Second year, and the big addition of having Graydon coming on the staff, and then Dean Casey full-time as well, has also accelerated our growth in the process of implementing the style of play we want to play going forward. But mainly, I think me and Owen, when we first came on, our main goal was to change the culture of the team, and we're very pleased of where it's headed right now. So grade-wise, I would say B+, which gives us more room to improve on.
Perfect. I'd say at this time of the year, that's probably the best type of grade you could have, because you want to be peaking as these games get more important. So next thing I wanted to ask you is, your team is sort of unique in the sense that you only really run 6 to 7 guys out your front gate. And so I wanted to ask you what your philosophy is behind that, and if you ever get concerned from time to time about your O-gate getting a little bit fatigued, maybe mentally or physically.
Yeah. 7 to 6-0 guys. We rarely go to 6-0, but 7 is the magic number. There will be some games where we'll go to 8, depending on our opponent and what adjustments we have to make. The reason for that limited number up front is we stress defense, and the old saying goes, championships are won by defense. So we heavily focus on our defensive game and transition game, and from that is where our offensive opportunities come from. At the same time, having seven to 6 offensive guys gives them more reps, which is key to offensive players. Whereas on the defensive side, it's more structure-wise. So it's designed that way because at the end of the day, you win games by having a great defense. So it is strategically designed that way, and that's how we intend to play. And we had success in the senior B, with the senior B minors going that route. So I don't see any reason why we would go away from that sort of a winning formula for us.
And that's totally fair. And I know, like, as an offensive player, myself, rhythm is very important. So I can definitely understand. I thought that was a great point when you said that defense is a lot more about effort and structure and things like that, and offense is a lot about getting reps and getting flow in your game. So I think that's a great point, and I can definitely get behind that philosophy. So on that point, you and I, we both sort of know your identity of your team over the last few years anyways has been your offense. As much as you build around your defense, your offense has always been sort of at the top part of the league. Past points and all of that, because anyone can go on the website and look it up and see the type of numbers he's put up and what he's averaged. But just Simonson is a guy that sort of impresses me every time I watch him, just because of the way he slows the game down and he has that ability to sort of quarterback the play. I just want you to tell people a little bit about what it's been like to have him around over the last couple of seasons.
Oh, yeah. Not just Sebi alone in the offense. Yeah, he does quiet our offense down. He does settle it down. He scores big goals when we need it. Sebi, great kid, hardworking, great communicator between his teammates and the coaching staff. We're so busy looking overall at what the game is, whereas he comes to us and says, "Hey, coaches, we see this on what the other defenses are doing. Is there something we can do to get around this?" So, he's got a great lacrosse IQ on the offensive side, which is a great advantage to us and a tool for his teammates too. So, yeah, Sebi works hard, listens well, and he's willing to sacrifice goals for assists. Great team player. But the list can go on and on. But overall, Sebi, you'll see Sebi playing A-ball sooner than later, is my prediction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I didn't want to, when I made this question, Vay, to be honest, there's so many guys I know, like you're itching to talk about, and I want to talk about as well. It's just, I feel like, Sebastian deserved a little bit of a special recognition just because of, his calmness. He just has such a calm, cool, collected demeanor on the floor, and not that other guys don't, but every game he just stands out as sort of being in control of the game, like having he's almost like a cheat code for you guys at times. And so I just wanted to, point that out and have you talk about him a little bit. So thank you for that. So, okay, now let's just sort of move into this series coming up and how you sort of feel going in. As a sort of a prequel to that, I want to ask you how you'd compare this year's team to last year's, and if there are any major differences, and if you think that the Founders last year might have opened some guys' eyes to what it might take to get to that next level.
Yeah, players that are involved in championship games, either be it a division final, an Alberta final, or a Founders Cup playoff round, those experiences are very invaluable, because if you are not successful in those rounds or those games, it gives you a sour taste, and it just gives you that drive and understanding of those little sacrifices you have to make to succeed. And we're benefiting it right now from our core, because now they've been through all those stages of disappointments and they realize how close they were. So it makes our message clearer of when we speak about, hey, discipline to the system. You got to make some sacrifices to succeed. So those were very invaluable experiences we had last year. Now, comparing this year's team to last year's team, that's tough, because to say one is better than the other would be doing injustice to one and be unfair to the other. I would say we're very blessed to have the players we have this year and this year as well. And the success we're seeing is just a byproduct of the players' hard work, commitment, and those little sacrifices that they're willing to do. So, we play the games, and we're going to find out who's going to come on top on this weekend. And we have full confidence in the players, in the group we have, as long as they stay true to what our goal was this year and be disciplined and just making those sacrifices. I can't speak enough. You got to make personal sacrifices for the success of the team, and I truly believe in that. And we will. I guess we'll see the outcome of what happens here in this series coming up against the Rebels.
100%. A litmus test, I think, for sure for both teams, because I think both teams over the course of the year, have continued to get better. And, if you look at sort of some of the results, late in the season compared to early in the season. I think it's been a matchup that's been on a collision course for quite some time, and it should be interesting to see how things play out. So, on that note, what unique challenges do you feel the Rebels present, and is there any one area of their game or style of play that concerns you the most as you prepare for the series that starts Friday night?
We're not overly concerned of what the Rebels are going to be doing. We're more focused on our team game, because we truly believe, at the end of the day, if we play our game, we'll be in a good game. We'll be in a position where we have an opportunity to come out on top. So, we just tell our guys, control what we control, and as long as we work hard, we should be rewarded for our hard work. But it's gonna be a tight series for sure. For sure.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that 100%. So, one more for you before we let you go here. So, overall, and you don't need to get into specifics or anything like that. Obviously, you don't want to, air what you're going to try and do, but just in a general sense, what type, just in terms of sort of style of play, is it going to be an up and down transition type series? You think it's going to be a penalty field series? Whatever you think, just let me know. I want to ask you what type of series you expect, and in one sentence or less, what factor do you think will most decide the series?
As you know, with me, as throughout our discussions, I don't give away too much details.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
The biggest factor is going to be our discipline regarding penalty minutes. Anybody can go on the website and just look at our penalty minutes. We've been fortunate we've gone away with the numerous penalties that we received throughout the year. So our main focus to our guys is just going to be don't put the officials in a situation where they're forced to make that call. Be aggressive, but not overly aggressive. What I can say it is with the style that Dan Beret has, those Rebels playing, it is going to be it's going to be a fast-paced lacrosse game for sure. Until one team gets tired out or adjustments are made. But first 10 minutes of game one on Friday is gonna indicate how the series is gonna go. Is what I anticipate, and then from there we'll make adjustments. It's gonna be a defensive battle. I believe we have the edge on the offensive side and the defensive side. Yeah. It's going to boil down to special teams is what it's going to boil down to.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And I think in a short sample, you're playing 3 games in such a compact amount of time.
We hope it's 2. We're hoping it's
2. Okay, fair enough. Well, if you lose one of the first 2, then you'll hope it's 3, right? But I know what you're saying. But yeah, no, it's I think in a compact series like this, in a best of 3 that's played in such a short time span, a lot of it could come down to as well which goalie gets hot. As you know, special teams and goaltending often play a large role, and just like in hockey and lacrosse outcomes. So I want to thank you so much for joining us here. It's been great, and all the best this weekend.
Thank you, and keep up the good work on the play-by-play there.
Thank you, Ave. I appreciate it. All right. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll see you at the rink on Friday night.
Sounds good, Mo.
All right. So we have heard from Vay and the Warriors, and now it's time to get a look into the Rebel side of things. Joining me now is head coach of the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels, Darren Bray. Darren, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, Mo?
Not too bad. I want to thank you for joining us here. And it's always good to get some insight, and you've got your big series coming up with the Warriors, and we'll get more into that as we go. But first off, I want to ask you sort of how you would evaluate your season overall, and if you had to give it a grade, A plus, B minus, C plus, D, whatever you want to give it, how would you label it?
this year, our season went pretty well. Like it started out the way we expected, and it kind of built from there. Like we've used all 25 guys, and they've all improved. So, and this has also been the best record we've ever had as an organization. So, can't say it's been a bad season. So, I'd probably give it about an A minus, somewhere around that area.
Perfect. All right. And so I want to ask you about Bowen Carpenter. He's coming out of 17A. He wasn't one of the guys that was on the top of a lot of teams' lists, and he kind of flew under the radar. And the season started out maybe a little bit rougher for him, but he's really found his stride here late in the season, and he's been one of the hotter goaltenders in the league. So maybe just talk a bit about him and what he's sort of meant for your team, as he's posted an 89 save percentage throughout these playoffs.
Well, Bowen was in the draft. Definitely, there wasn't a lot of people talking about him. I watched him a little bit in his final year of the U17s, and I really liked the way he played. And going to the combine, I saw him play again. Saw all the rookie goalies in that draft, and I saw him, and he stood out to me. Going into combine, he was all right. He was a little shaky. He figured out the net, and as the season progressed, he just got better and better and better and better. And he continued to work on his game. He went to senior practices. He went to senior goalies, asked them advice for advice. We worked with him a lot. He ended up figuring out a lot of like any of his weaknesses he wanted to fix. He ended up fixing them as best he can, and he's probably one of the most unorthodox goalies you'll ever see. But it works for him, so why change it? But he has been an absolute rock.
No, it's been great to see, and you always love to hear that type of dedication and commitment to your craft, and it's definitely translated out onto the floor, as I thought that he was very good for you guys in that first round. So now I want to ask you, so you finished the season as the highest scoring team in Junior B. You had 248 goals, and I'll say this. The biggest thing that stood out to me in your round one victory over the Outlaws was your transition play, and I've really noticed a lot better play from Seth McKenzie and Alex Zorniak and Fraser Barrett and guys like that, and also Reynaud. Those guys have all really sort of stepped up for you. Do you think that might be an advantage as you go into this series with the Warriors, that improved transition play and sort of trying to speed up your game a little bit?
It's been huge. That's something actually we've been putting a lot of focus on in the last later stages of our season was working on the transition game. Our team does a lot of video work, so we actually pull out the projector and we go through clips on transition, what we like to see, what we don't like to see, when to take it to the net, when not to take it to the net. And I honestly think from if you watch game one of our season to our last playoff game, or you'll see the complete night and day difference of how our players are playing, and it's made a huge difference. And we're a team that can beat you with speed, and we can beat you with skill. So I think that will play a big part into the series. Yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah, multifaceted. You always want to have different ways that you can, throw different things you can throw at the opponent. And a team like the Warriors, obviously, you got to have a few things in your back pocket if you want to come out on top. So the next thing I want to get to here is the Rebels were the most active team at a deadline that was pretty quiet. I know last year you had the Silvertips making some moves, and you had the Chill making some moves, and you had obviously in the North the Warriors added a little bit, and then they added more when they went to the Founders and things like that. But and the Crude obviously made a bunch of moves as well. So I wanted to ask you about what Fodchuk and Tarek have meant to your team and how they've sort of fit in, because front gate guys, it's a premium position, and it's a lot harder to integrate those guys. And for them to come in so late in the season, just talk a little bit about what that process has been like and how it's worked out for you guys.
Well, it's worked out great. And honestly, when we both got them, it was a quick transition. Like they worked in smoothly. Like they weren't relied upon. They just fit into our offense. It was just slide these guys in and off you go. And they've only gotten better and better, and the team's just gelled more and more as the season's gone on. the biggest thing with our offense is it isn't one guy or two guys, it's everyone. So everyone's always involved. So you can't just rely on one guy, and we believe strongly 8 to 10 guys that can always contribute whenever needed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that as you go into the playoffs and the games get more meaningful, it naturally guys are never going to have, they're never going to be at their optimal performance, and then of course you have injuries and things like that. So the more guys you have that can be a threat and be dangerous is huge. So I think that those are all really good points. So right before we get into the matchup itself with the Warriors, I'll throw you one last question here. You and I played together Junior A. We played for the Eclipse, now defunct, with one Edmonton team remaining in the area. But I want to just get your thoughts on how trying to win as a coach as opposed to a player, how it maybe differs, maybe some of the similarities, or what sort of the common motivational aspects of it are, and if one or the other would be more fulfilling for you.
Well, they're completely different, I think. Winning as a player, that meant everything to me. I never got to, unfortunately, win. Pretty much anywhere I played, I never really won. So I never got to feel what it was like to win. But I know that it's a completely different feeling than as a coach, because as a coach, it's not about me, it's about the team. To be honest, I don't want to win for me. I want our players to win for themselves and for their team. I just want to help them get there. That's all I want to do. But it's more of if success as a coach to me is really important, because you take pride in your players, and you like to see them succeed in their careers, and you want to push them as far as they can go. So that maybe, I don't know if that answers the differences, but for me, I like seeing the success as a coach more than a player, because there's 25 kids you're kind of responsible for, and I don't know fully how to answer it with the comparables, but as a coach, I obviously love seeing our kids succeed. That'd be the biggest thing.
No, I totally, as someone who's coached quite a bit myself, I totally understand where you're coming from, and in a lot of ways, coaching is definitely more fulfilling than playing. And I think that you guys have done a great job running that program, as the Warriors have, and I don't think it's a coincidence that those are the two teams facing off here this weekend. So with that in mind, tell me a little bit about how you think you match up with the Warriors, and maybe one or two areas that concern you a little bit. And obviously I'm not asking you to denigrate your team at all, but going into a series, everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and what are you sort of trying to, I'll put it this way, what are you trying to focus on in terms of preparing for the Warriors?
Biggest thing is just focusing on our game. Not so much concern with the other team, because I think we're a team that can dictate play. But if there is a spot we're a little bit worried about, it would be the Warriors' power play. You have to respect it. They have a lot of gunners, and they're very effective. So staying out of the box would be one of our focuses. Other than that, just playing our game, being a fast transition team, and being a team that outworks the Warriors. That would be basically where our concern is, and where we'd like to focus our attention to.
Perfect. And so I want to conclude this interview by asking you, the Rebels, this will be the fourth year in a row, I believe, that they'll be going to the North Final, 2018, 2019, 2 years of COVID, and then last year, and then this year. So this is the fourth time, and you guys were able to, they fell short in the provincials, but they won the North, and then you guys did so in 2019 as well, in the same sort of experience, and then last year lost to the Warriors. So this year, with the chance to go back and maybe win it all, what do you think this series comes down to in one sentence or less?
Heart.
Perfect. So Darren, thank you so much for stopping by, and I as always, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mo. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Special thanks to Darren Beret and Vadiep for their time today. And before I get into some predictions, and I know everybody's jacked up for those, I want to go on a little bit of a rant. Now, I want to be clear. This has nothing to do with the league. Amanda, don't worry, I'm not coming after you or the scheduling done by the RMLL itself. This is more to do with why are teams scheduling playoff games? Like, it's bad enough in the regular season, but why are teams scheduling playoff games at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 3 o'clock in the afternoon? People don't want to go to games in the middle of the day. They'd rather be, biking in the river valley and spending time with their kids and going to the mall and probably more importantly getting things done during the day. People are preoccupied. And as for the players, A, who wants to play in a building that's empty, which I saw a ton this year, and B, half of these guys don't even get up until noon. So now you're getting guys out of their routines, and you're forcing them into situations where they've got to rush and get things done so they can get to the rink on time. I mean, I just don't understand. Somebody help me understand the logic behind this. At the end of the day, this is about maximizing the accessibility of your product and the quality of your product. Why are we playing games in the middle of the day? I really want to try and understand this. You play all year to have a playoff series finish in 60 hours. That's the other thing. It makes no sense to pack. The series are short enough as they are. They're 3-game series. Why are there not off days in between games? Some series have them, but others don't. I think the worst setup is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday setup. Give the series some space to breathe. Let guys, have a little bit of time in between games. You want players to have the chance to properly prepare for games and give fans multiple maximum amount of reasons to show up for a game. And it all goes hand in hand. And these are local teams. We're in divisional playoffs. Like, lacrosse can't be something that we just continually try to rush through and get done, get it over with. It's not. It just. I don't know. I have a really hard time with this, and I've thought this for years, and I've never really talked about it out in the open, but I know Cody. We've had him and I have had discussions about this multiple times. We try to comprehend it, and we just can't. If you have any thoughts about this, feel free to hit me up on Twitter, MJ_9. And you can also email me. I don't care. Contact me, text me. I mean, I'm sure there's other people with thoughts about this. If you're a player, especially. I know as a player, I hated 2 o'clock games in the middle of the... Especially, you'd play 8 o'clock, and half the time you'd play 8 o'clock in one city back in the day. And then you come back and play at 2 o'clock at home on a Sunday. It's awful. And now we're doing this in the playoffs. I want somebody, if somebody can come, if somebody shows up with some rationale behind this,
then maybe I can start to see the other side of it. But I just don't understand it. And then, on top of that, these short series are such an easy fix. We're playing 20 regular season games, many of which don't have anything riding on them, with large gaps in the schedule, and then turning around and flying through the playoffs. This isn't the damn Autobahn. Why are we going 250 clicks an hour through the playoffs? The best time of the year. You can go to a 16-game regular season, play a best-of-5 round 1, best-of-7 in round 2. Who wouldn't love that? Like, you're telling me that people would rather see Olds and Lethbridge on May 26th more than they'd love to see the Rebels and Warriors go at it in a best-of-7 right now, or the Marauders and the Shamrocks going through a best-of-7? I find me one person that would disagree with that sentiment. I don't think it's you can't. There's so many ways that this can be changed and fixed, but people have to be willing to actually talk and communicate. And sometimes in lacrosse, it's very difficult to have happen. At the end of the day, and I'll conclude with this, at the end of the day, lacrosse isn't a second-class citizen, and it's time we stop treating it like one. Alright, prediction time. So now, before I dive into this, a bit of a disclaimer. I don't hate any Junior B teams in this league. Alright? So I'm not, if I don't pick your team, I'm not hating on you. I don't have any ill will against anyone, especially within Junior B. I promise you. No, there's not a single Junior B team even in the country. So if I'm not picking your team, it's nothing personal. And really, this league this year was as tight and as well played and as close as I can remember. There's 6, 7 legitimately really good teams. I mean, the Mountaineers, I saw doing some pretty big things this year. I liked what I saw. They're out already. So, no hard feelings. I'm not here trying to disrespect anyone. Anybody who's left is a quality team. And for how competitive the league was this year, I say good job by you to every single organization, really, that is in the RMLL Junior B circuit right now. So without further ado, let's get into it. In the East, I'll keep this one real short. I've seen the Blizzard, I haven't seen the Kings. The Kings seem to have a really strong offense. Second most goals in the league, right behind the Rebels. And the Blizzard are a winning program, so I don't discount them. But unfortunately this year, I just don't think they have the depth. I think they have a few guys offensively that are dangerous, but then it really drops off. And I think the Kings, from the look of them, I mean, again, I haven't seen them play, but just the feel I get is that they're gonna take this series, and I think they do it in 2. Now let's go to the Central. Silvertips Rampage. Rocky View's really been as consistent as it gets. All year they've been in the penthouse of the Central Division. And they've had extremely good goaltending. 88% save percentage. That's big in the playoffs. And keep in mind, this is a team that has the experience of going to the provincials last year, and it ended pretty quickly for them. They had the Warriors on the ropes in game 1 and let it slip away. And then I think they got blasted in their second game, if memory serves correctly. And it was sort of done for them. I could be wrong about that, but I think they got... I definitely think they lost their second game, and it was kind of done at that point. Because the Warriors and Shamrocks were sort of running away with it. So you got to think they're going to be motivated. Now, the Silvertips are another team I haven't really seen play. So it's tough for me to sit here and go, yeah, they're going to do this and that. I can't really talk X's and O's with you. I can't really talk tactics as far as how I think the Silvertips are going to match up with Red Deer. But offensively, I think they have the edge. I know Visti. I coached against him last year in 17A. I shouldn't say I know him. I know his game. I know what type of player he is. And that kid's going to be something special. I think the Silvertips have more than enough offense. Now, Red Deer comes into this game off their 2-0 series sweep with a chill. And this is a team that can upset people. It's a blue-collar type team, and it always seems to fly under the radar. But do you know that Red Deer, since this provincial format came into effect, up until last year, had made it every single year? 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. And then COVID for a couple of years, and last year was the first year they didn't make it. They had a down year last year. But man, this team every single year, I remember when I was coaching the Crew and we played them in the North Final. This team just has so much grit. And they always work really hard. So I'm not going to discount them. But in the end, I just think Rocky View is going to have too much offensive prowess. And maybe Red Deer can steal one, but the official prediction here is Rocky View in 2, and I think you see the Silvertips in Beaumont in early August. Now let's go to the South. Marauders Shamrocks. And listen, this Okotoks team is legitimate, and I've often thought that this team was better than what they've sort of put out record-wise in previous years. And this year, again, the South, there's no video really of any of their games. So the only teams I've really seen are teams that have come up here. But I've talked to a few guys that have played them this year, and they all say they're physical, they're really fast, and strong defensively, which is a recipe for a playoff success. I think they can shut some teams down. They just did it to the Mountaineers. Now, the Shamrocks, I've seen a couple of times. I don't think they're the same team I know they're not the same team as in previous years. They lost a lot from last year, and they lost even more through COVID. A lot of their guys aged out. I mean, obviously the year they won the Founders, they lost a ton of guys. But there's very few people that I respect more in Alberta lacrosse than Jason Crook. And I think 2 weeks to prepare for this is going to be big. And that's a legitimate factor in this. Because, just watching the Shamrocks this year, I thought their power play didn't have the same type of creativity. I thought their defense was far too easy to gain access into the middle on. And, they're on the road, and maybe some of that was fatigue and things like that. But I expect a lot better. I think they're going to show up in this series. I think they're going to play their best lacrosse. And I think Okotoks, if you really dive into their schedule, 4-7 against teams with winning record. Shamrocks have home floor. Shamrocks only lost twice on their home floor this year. If the Shamrocks resemble anything of what I'm typically used to seeing them at this time of the year, and they get adequate goaltending, because I worry about that, I think they beat Okotoks. And Okotoks, I'm giving you your due here. I think you're probably the better team on paper. But paper doesn't win games, unfortunately. And if you want a bit of an analogy, I think Okotoks is kind of like that power, that big power boxer that throws a bunch of haymakers. And the Shamrocks are more of that cerebral, fundamentally sound fighter. And I think in this case, the latter wins out in Shamrocks in 3. And they return to yet another provincial. Now, lastly, let's go to the north. And this is... I could probably talk for a full 24 hours about this matchup. And going into this series, you know the Warriors are going to score. Simonson, Dickin, the Warriors. The Warriors' off-ball offense is as good as it gets in Junior B lacrosse. It's been that way the last 2 years. But you know what you can do on the Warriors? You can score. And the Rebels, what do? They score. They led the RMLL Junior B circuit in goals. Something that I don't know if many people would have thought coming into the season. They just got so many guys that can hurt you. So needless to say, you can probably see where I'm going with this. This is going to be a high-scoring series. At least I expect it to be. That's the way you beat the Warriors, is apply scoring pressure. Because at any given time, the Warriors can run away with a game. So you got to be able to answer back. And the Rebels can do that. I think the Rebels are going to want to try and play as much of this series in transition and speed up the game as much as they can. I think they're going to want to try and limit the amount of 5-on-5 sets, because the Warriors can really hurt you there. And the biggest advantage the Warriors have in the series is their power play. The Rebels have to... You're going to take penalties. It's part of the game. But their penalty kill has to step up when they do take penalties, and they've got to try to limit those penalties that they do take. And if they can do that, then they've got a shot. Because, again, I think the Warriors' biggest advantage in this series is special teams. And then the last thing, sort of tactically speaking, that I think the Rebels are going to need to do in this series to give themselves the best chance possible is to put pressure on the Warrior defenders and transition players to have to make decisions quickly, speed up their internal clocks. Honestly, I'm too close. I'm too close to this series to give an official prediction. I know way too many guys on both teams, and I have so much, love and respect for them that I don't want to give a pick here. All I'm gonna say is I think this goes 3, and these are two of the top 3 or 4 teams in Junior B. And it's a shame that both won't be going to the provincials. One will be, though. Let's just hope for a 3-game. That's my prediction, is that it'll go 3 games, and let's just hope it goes to overtime in game 3, and we get to witness some great lacrosse. So that's going to wrap all this little podcast or whatever you want to call it up. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen. And above all else, make sure that you hit subscribe on the Crowlax TV channel. You can tune in to all our playoff coverage as we go through, obviously, the divisional finals and into the provincials. And just make sure that you take care of each other and yourselves, and we'll see you soon on the channel. Enjoy all the action, and thank you for listening.